The Bhagavad Gita in simple English, presented by Swayam Prakash Sharma. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the most important religious texts of the Hindus. It is also regarded as one of the greatest scriptures of mankind. The Gita contains the essence of the knowledge, the philosophy, and the wisdom of the ancient Vedas and the Upanishads. The Bhagavad Gita is an important and integral part of the great Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata, in terms of its sheer vastness, is by far the biggest epic of all mankind and consists of 18 books. The Gita is located in Book 6, the book of Bhishma, and it consists of 700 verses spread over 18 chapters. The Gita is set in the backdrop of the great war fought at the cusp of the third and the fourth age, the present age, between cousins, the five sons of Pandu, the Pandavas, led by the eldest Yudhishthir, and the 100 sons of the blind king Dhritarashtra, the elder brother of Pandu, the Kauravas, led by the eldest Duryodhan. The Pandavas stood for good, while the Kauravas stood for evil. The Pandavas had been unfairly deprived of their kingdom by the Kauravas and forced to spend 13 years in exile, the last year without being discovered. When they had completed their period of exile, they asked for their kingdom from the Kauravas, but Duryodhan refused to return their kingdom to them. The Pandavas were essentially peace-loving people. They wanted to avoid violence and bloodshed at all costs, and therefore they tried all possible peaceful ways to get their kingdom back from the Kauravas. They even sent Lord Krishna to negotiate and make Duryodhan see reason, but all in vain. Duryodhan just would not listen. The Pandavas were even willing to settle for only 5 villages. This too was rejected by Duryodhan, who was not willing to give them any land at all, or, in his own words, not land even to cover the tip of a needle. All peaceful overtures by the Pandavas having failed, the stage was set for war. The Pandavas had no choice but to fight for what was rightfully theirs. They mobilized their allies and with their army gathered on the holy field of Kurukshetra to battle with the Kaurav forces of Duryodhan and his allies. Prince Arjun, one of the Pandav brothers, was the greatest archer warrior of his time. He, along with his other brother, the mighty Bhim, was the mainstay of the Pandav army. Yudhishthir was banking on him to win them the war. Lord Krishna, God incarnate himself, became Arjun's Sarthi, his chariot driver and advisor for the war. However, when the war was about to begin, seeing his grandsire, his kinsmen, and his friends in the opposing army, Arjun suffers a crisis of conscience when he realizes that victory in the war can only be achieved by killing his relatives, his teachers, and his friends, his own near and dear ones. He loses his nerve and is overcome with doubt, pity, and remorse. Confused about his duty, he puts down his bow and arrows, refuses to fight, and sits down in his chariot, despondent and dejected. It was at this critical juncture that Lord Krishna stepped in and delivered the discourse of the Gita to the dejected and the distressed Arjun on the field of battle itself, in the middle of both the armies. The Bhagavad Gita is thus a dialogue between God incarnate himself, Lord Krishna, and the wavering warrior Prince Arjun, where the Lord addresses all the concerns, all the doubts, and all the misgivings of the warrior prince on the field of battle itself. Lord Krishna tells Arjun that the soul is immortal and that it can never die, while the body is mortal and that it has to die. He tells Arjun that his duty is only to do work and not to worry about the fruit of work. He tells about selfless work, about renouncing the fruit of work, about one's duty, about the harmony of yoga, and about Brahma, the Supreme, the Absolute. He tells about the reasons of his incarnation, the circumstances in which he is born into this world. Whenever dharma declines and sin dominates, then is God born into the world. For the protection of the good, for the destruction of the evil, and for re-establishing dharma, he is born into this world again and again. He tells about devotion to God, about one's dharma, one's righteous and ordained duty, about sacrifice and renunciation, and about surrender to the Lord, about the field of action, about the knower of the field of action, and about knowledge of both. He tells about the different kinds of his devotees and the qualities of those devotees. He tells Arjun about how to meditate, about the ways of controlling the mind, about the three attributes of nature: Satgun, light and goodness; Rajogun, fire and passion; and Tamogun, dark and evil and dullness. And also about their effect on and interaction with all other activities. He also tells about the divine and the demonic qualities of man, about the various kinds of foods, about the various kinds of sacrifices, about the different kinds of charity, about the different types of knowledge, about intelligence, about perseverance, and about happiness in accordance with the attributes of nature. He tells about persons of steadfast wisdom, about controlling the triad of desire, anger, and greed. He tells about the tree of life, with its roots spread out in the world of men, and about how to cross over the temporal, physical world to attain redemption and liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Krishna also describes his various and different manifestations, reveals to Arjun his all-encompassing, cosmic, divine form, and finally assuring Arjun that he would give refuge to him and also free him from all sins. Lord Krishna concludes his discourse. Hearing the Lord's discourse of the Gita, the doubts, the confusion, the ignorance, and the delusion, the crisis of conscience which had taken hold of Arjun and which had weakened him, all go away. He becomes calm and composed, regains his nerve, and agrees to fight the war. He fights the Kauravas, defeats them, and restores the kingdom to its rightful king, his brother Yudhishthir. The Bhagavad Gita occupies a very special place in the hearts and in the lives of the Hindu people. For thousands of years, they have been comforted by its divine words. They do not regard the Gita as just a holy scripture. They also regard it as the key which helps unlock the mysteries of life and which helps in dealing with the problems of everyday life. For them, it is not just a book of philosophy and religion. It is in fact a handbook, a kind of ready reckoner which helps them in dealing with the ups and downs of life, with its nitty-gritty, with its everyday problems, and also with its crisis situations, and thereby it helps in bringing peace and tranquility to their lives in the process. Among all the great religious or spiritual discourses of the world, the Gita is probably the only such discourse to have been delivered on the field of battle. The Gita tells us the battle we have to fight is not just a physical battle with our outside enemies, it is also an internal and spiritual battle with the enemies within us. The Gita not only brings the wavering warrior back to the path of duty and inculcates in him again his lost sense of duty by dispelling his doubts and his ignorance, it also puts him on the right path to life, spirituality, and emancipation. In life, we have enemies all around us. They are not only outside, surrounding us on all sides, they are also firmly entrenched within us as well, in our minds and in our hearts. Vanquishing all these outer and inner enemies and showing the right path to emancipation and liberation is the main objective, the main aim of the Gita. The Gita clearly lists out four paths to liberation and emancipation: the path of knowledge, the path of selfless work, the path of meditation, and the path of devotion. Hindu philosophy recognizes all these as the pathways leading to emancipation and liberation. Among all the great religious discourses of the world, the Gita is perhaps the only one which describes the various paths, but then leaves it to the individual to choose his path. The Gita gives us the liberty, the freedom to choose our own path of liberation. Through this presentation of the Gita in simple English, I have tried to make it easy to read, easy to listen to, and also easy to comprehend, so that it could enrich our lives and bring happiness, peace, and contentment to us all. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om.